Hey, welcome to the Micheaux Mission, Two Men, One Podcast, every black film ever made. My name is Len, aka the Bat Tribble. And as always, I'm joined on this lovely StreamYard by my partner.
Hey, what's up? This is Vincent Williams.
Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are so thankful that you have returned. You have survived with us the merry month of May, and you have made it to June. African American Music Appreciation Month. Yes, that mouthful of a celebration that your president, Barack Obama, put into place back during his administration. And the Micheaux Mission is lockstep with him as we celebrate all during the month of June, kicking off with Vincent's selection for tonight from 2004, the film Ray, featuring an Oscar-winning performance by one Jamie Foxx, as well as some stellar performances by Regina King, Kerry Washington, Harry Lennox,
Bokeem Woodbine, Anjanou Ellis, Clifton Powell.
Clifton Powell, as I dare say, you've never seen him before, ladies and gentlemen, in this great film. Shout out to each and every one of you out there who are watching us streaming live on YouTube as well as on Facebook via StreamYard, and we are streaming in the Micheaux Mission Facebook group. We're also streaming in the Black Tribbles Tribble Nation Facebook group. So shout out to each and every one of you as well. What's up, Vince? How you doing, brother?
Oh, I'm all right. Like we talked about, coming in hot, busy today, running around. But count me in the number. I am here. And yourself?
Yes. I'm doing very well. I actually saw, just looking up, getting prepared for the show, I saw that we heard from our good friend of the show, always sitting there in the Facebook group, George Kimona, who actually has a early selection that he wants to nominate for next year's Mother May I.
Oh, and what might that be, George?
He is nominating Snakes on a Plane for next year's Mother May I.
I'm with it.
I'm with that too, even though I would argue, see, we recently went through, like we were going through all of the past Mother May I months, movies that we selected. And the one that probably is not quite like the others from the films that we did before was Passenger 57, which you selected, which not a great film, but I don't know if it deserve to be, relegated to necessarily the month of May.
No,
right?
Not at all. In retrospect, that was a bad Mother May I choice.
There you go. I would argue that Snakes on a Plane doesn't necessarily belong in Mother May I.
Snakes on a Plane is pretty terrible.
Yeah, but it's pretty entertaining.
I mean, yes, but as a movie built around a joke, that the joke wasn't even funny anymore by the time the movie was made. I don't know.
I feel it. I'm curious. I'm not exactly sure what Deborah Battle is speaking of. Deborah Battle said, let's say there were really good actors in this whole movie. Okay, I think she's talking about Ray. Yes, there were really good actors.
Yes. She is not referring to Snakes on a Plane.
I don't know. It could be argued about that, but we'll see next year.
Okay, next year. Perhaps it's on the docket. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that pans out. But right now we are in the month of June, African American Music Appreciation Month. Which Barack Obama, he's the one that changed it because it used to be Black Music Month.
I mean, that's what I still call it.
It kind of like rolls off the tongue.
Yes.
I don't know necessarily what was the thinking behind changing it to African and what it is, but
Yes.
I like Black Music Month. But
Yes.
nevertheless, I'm going to keep it there. It's so all of our films this month, ladies and gentlemen, are going to be highlighting Black music in some way, shape, or form. We're starting with tonight's selection, Ray. And Black music is, I would imagine that this is a month that is especially important to you, Vince, or precious to you, because for a long time you made part of your living, highlighting the culture of Black music.
Right, right. It's actually just the opposite. This is just another month for me.
Really?
Every month is Black Music Month.
That's true. There you go.
Actually, don't do anything different this month.
Just bring out the same albums, play the same music.
Right, exactly.
Pretty much. I hear you. I got a question for you, Vince. When you come home, say here we go.
Okay.
Because you got a full family.
Yes.
You've got a house that is easy.
I don't.
Record do you? You've got a. Did you hear me, Vince?
I did not. I don't know if you froze or I froze.
I think we both froze for a little bit there. Okay. Here's my question. Oh, this will be a fun edit. What I'm curious, on those rare occasions where you've got a Saturday all to yourself and you're
all to
home
myself.
alone, you've got nothing to do, and you want to fill the room with music. Is there one go-to album or artist that gets played?
And I'm by myself.
Yes.
Probably
DMX.
Probably not DMX. Probably not DMX. I am going to go classic.
Really?
Like if it's going to be big, because one thing, because I like it quiet, but I like it not that quiet. I like quiet music, or rather a quietness to the music. So I'm probably going to go Miles Davis, Gil Evans. So you get the Miles with the orchestra behind them. Or Electric Miles, Bitches Brew and Afterwards.
Okay. All right.
So something big, but something kind of structured and peaceful. Because I do like that. I actually like the sound of the acoustics in an empty house.
Interesting. All right, cool. All right. Interesting.
So that's probably what I do. Either that, or I just put Carl Carlson, She's a Bad Mama Jamma on repeat.
Wow.
So Bitches Brew or She's a Bad Mama Jamma.
Nice
Sometimes
selection.
Everybody Was Kung Fu Fighting. I like Everybody Was Kung Fu Fighting on repeat as well.
All right. Now you've lost me, but okay. All right. Thank you. Let's go to the tape, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go to the Facebook group. We got a couple of interesting notices in there. I don't know if you are aware of this. There's a foreign film, Toussaint Louverture, and I may be mispronouncing that, from director Philippe Nian, historical action pick about the man behind the slave revolt that led to Haiti's independence.
Yeah, I saw someone posted that. That looks really interesting.
It does. It's a French film with English subtitles. In the description, it says at the age of 8, Toussaint Louverture is marked forever when he sees his father, an old slave, judged unproductive and thrown into the harbor. As an adult and free man, Louverture leads the slave revolt that results in the independence of Haiti. Oh, that sounds pretty interesting. It's a film that just opened on May 28th, this past weekend.
Always a very interesting piece of history. So I always
Yeah.
like to see that commemorated.
Yeah, and I think that's a piece of history that is long gone unchronicled. So I like to see that getting its just due. Um, and speaking of, and I guess, pieces of history, there was also a post that was noted in the Facebook group from the Hollywood Reporter. It was a story that ran back in April, but I only just recently came upon it, about why black biopics reign at Lifetime.
You know what? I saw that article and I didn't get a chance to read it. Did you read it?
I read through it, not all of it, but I read through a lot of it. It was focusing. The article came up because it was right around the time that Lifetime was premiering Robin Roberts presents Mahalia, their biopic starring Danielle Brooks of the life story of Mahalia Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
And the article I thought was really interesting. It points out that Mahalia is Lifetime's third biopic of 2021. All three have been focused on Black women. Mm-hmm. Going back to January with Salt and Pepper, and then Wendy Williams, the movie, which actually premiered a week later. And in fact, since 1993, of Lifetime's 68 biopics, 22 of them, nearly a third, have been centered on the lives of Black women. And that has been purposeful, because while, and reading directly from the article, and I'll give the writer is due, the article by Rebecca Sun of the Hollywood Reporter, it notes, while Lifetime has given the biopic treatment to plenty of universal household names like Whitney Houston, Simone Biles, and Meghan Markle, the biopics of this year, and also including recent biopics such as the Clark sisters, mm-hmm. is an example of a decision to commit resources to figures beloved within the Black community, but not as well known outside of it. It was a Black executive, Lifetime's original movie manager, Michael Chin, who worked with a lot of the other people in Lifetime to bring this initiative forward. That's pretty cool. I think pretty dope. I myself has noticed that Lifetime. I mean, you can't help but notice that Lifetime's been doing a lot of Black women, a lot of stories that probably wouldn't told any. You may argue about the opportunity to tell these stories, especially this aspect of Black history, and to history goes the most unappreciated is that of Black women. Having the opportunity to tell those stories and get them out there, I got to applaud for it. I think that's pretty dope.
Absolutely. I think you absolutely applaud it. But I think the other part of it, I mean, certainly you should always acknowledge, I guess for lack of a better word, people doing good work, mm-hmm. like altruism, if you will. But then I just also have to say, and obviously tonight we're going to talk about this as well, in a lot of ways, it's good business.
That's
because
true.
You have these untapped stories, mm-hmm. that are wonderful stories. When you think about Wendy Williams' story, and I didn't even see the Wendy Williams biopic, but just sort of knowing Wendy Williams' story, when you think about Mahalia Jackson's story,
Mm-hmm.
You and I have talked about how hip hop generally is untapped
Right.
as a form with these biographies. If someone had told me that that Clark sisters story would have been as gripping as it was, well, I
You would
probably would have
never.
said, okay, that actually kind of makes sense, because when you think about that sort of that sort of tension between the gospel world and the secular world, and then when you put women in it, and then just sort of the personal interactions of the sisters.
Mm-hmm.
But the Clark sisters was fantastic. And I think even if you don't like music, even if you don't like gospel music, even if you don't like, uh, uh, you know, 70s music, if you've never heard of the Clark sisters, it was such a fantastic story and such a wonderful. We'll be talking about her tonight. Ingenue Ellis
Mm.
just sort of broke out with this great role. So, on the one hand, I do applaud Lifetime for putting these stories in the forefront in a way that other people haven't.
Right.
But on the other hand, I think we should just acknowledge, in many ways, it's just good business to give support to these stories that have
Right.
never ever been told.
Right.
And they're
Yeah.
just sitting there waiting to
Yeah.
be told, and they're great stories.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Very. I second that. So it's pretty cool. I did. I've heard nothing but great things about the Clark sisters biography. I did not watch it. So that is one that is a hole in my viewing that I have to make up for. Um,
Poe
well,
decisions. Poe decisions. You're making Poe decisions. And once you watch it, you'll know what I'm talking about.
all right. Yeah, I will check it out. So, um, uh, the hopefully you are sticking with us throughout.
You with me? So now Lynn is gone completely. And it is me by myself as I sit here and we talk. So maybe I'll just sit and talk to the folks while I wait for Lynn to come back. This has been quite the episode already. You all don't know, but we had a bit of technical difficulty right before we started, and we thought we had solved it, but apparently, wait, and here's Lynn.
I'm back.
All right.
I don't know what happened there. I don't know.
I was
what
sharing
happened.
with the missionaries how I had to come in hot myself. So,
Yeah,
we may have gremlins this evening.
we might have room. Oh, I can't wait till later this month when we are back together live and in person, Vince.
I know. Can I tell you a secret? When
Yes.
I fly, I don't look out the window because of the Twilight Zone episode.
Well, what if your seat is not on the wing, so you wouldn't see it if you looked outside if you're not on the wing?
I'm saying when I have the window seat, I close the window.
Oh, okay. But regardless of whether or not your seat is close to the wing or not, you close the window. You don't look outside.
I do not look outside because of the Twilight Zone episode with William Shatner.
All right. Now let me ask you this: suppose you're flying with Wendy, then you wouldn't have the window seat. She would have the window seat because she would sit on the inside, right?
I mean, it depends. Oftentimes if it's four of us, it'll be me and Camille or me and Adam,
Okay.
and then depending on the legroom situation,
Got you.
there are
Got you.
times I've had the window
Got you. Got you. See,
and I close the window.
I don't look out the window, but that's because I don't do heights. So it's when you've got me in there. You don't expect me to be looking out the window. I'm fine. I'm fine. When I look, I want to see specific with the point. That's what I want to see. I don't mess around. We've got a lot of issues. This is going to be fun. It's going to be a fun night tonight.
Hey, we gonna look. We are professionals.
We're professional. We're going to power through. Speaking of, I don't even know what.
We gonna make it do what it do, baby.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I can't pass up a good segue. So let's get into our review of 2004. I was going to say, but now it's time for trailer talk. But you got frozen.
Yeah, trailer talk. Are we in trailer talk? Are we in?
Yes, we're in trailer talk now.
Okay, what's going on? Is that you or me?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I have absolutely. I don't have.
I tell you what, because you went out. Did you go out on your own, or you came back in?
I go out on my.
Wait, you got kicked out, or you went out?
Oh, now. I got kicked out again.
Okay, go out. Just go out and come back in. Maybe reset your joint, and then I'll do it if it's still funky.
All right, I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna.
When in doubt, turn it off and turn it back on.
All right, I'm going out and.
All right. All right. Now he's gone. Let's talk about him. How y'all doing?
I'm here.
All right, you back. How we doing?
I mean, we look fine. I don't know what the hell that problem is.
No, you just froze again.
I did.
Now you're freezing again.
The problem is that I'm freezing. You're freezing on my side.
Okay, I'm gonna go out and come back in.
You go out and come back in. Yes, you go back in.
All right.
Vincent is leaving. And he's gone. And he's gone. Vincent's gone. He left the live stream. And he's gone. And he's gone. He'll be here in a minute. And he's gone. He's netting this. I froze up. I don't know if everybody's hearing me. I don't know what's up. Vince, it looks like he's connecting. It looks like he finally connected. Vince is there. Vince, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I hear you fine.
Because you were freezing as I was waiting to come in.
Oh, because you were coming in like frozen. I don't know. It may be on my end. I think everybody.
Did you turn your modem off and turn it back on? Did you reset it?
I don't have time to turn up. I don't have time to reset my modem, Vincent. We will be down for 20 minutes if I have to do that.
It takes you 20 minutes to reset your modem?
Reset my modem, Vince. Yes, reset my modem.
No, not reset it. Turn it basically to airplane mode and then turn it back on.
My modem? I don't even
your computer. No, I'm sorry, not your modem, on your computer.
Okay. I'm about to say that's what you said. You said my modem. All right, I'm gonna go out and do that.
Right.
Okay.
Go out. Turn the Wi-Fi off on your computer. Come back. No, I'm not singing for y'all. Damon, I'm talking about from the show itself. You're talking about the Twilight Zone movie, which is also excellent. And they remade that segment. But I'm talking about from the episode from the show with William Shatner. Yeah, Bree 517, I won't be singing. I'm going to sit here and talk about the Twilight Zone movie. They remade the two segments from the Twilight Zone. It's like Terror at 35,000 feet or whatever the name, but the one with William Shatner where he saw the gremlins. And then they remade the one with, I believe It's a Good Life. It's a Good Life with the little boy who wished people in the cornfield. And is that Ron Howard who plays the little boy in the episode of the Twilight Zone when they were kids, when he was a kid? And he got angry and he would wish people in the cornfield. But they remade that one too.
No, that's not Ron Howard.
Who is you know who it is?
It's Billy Mumy.
Billy Mumy from Lost in Space. Yes. I was just about to say that. Now, what they should have remade was, of course, my favorite episode of the Twilight Zone ever, which you know what my favorite episode of the Twilight Zone ever is. It's the most stereotypical favorite episode of the Twilight Zone.
What?
But it's my favorite episode of the Twilight Zone.
To Serve Man?
Of course. Of course, To Serve Man is my favorite episode of the Twilight Zone.
Interesting. That is not my favorite episode of the Twilight Zone.
That's because you're a hipster.
What? You think you know my favorite episode of the Twilight Zone?
No, because I know it's some obscure. It's like one of the ones with not Abe Vigoda. What's my man's name from the Odd Couple?
Jack Klugman.
It's one with Jack Klugman where like he was playing the horn. The one where he played the horn.
No,
it was like Gabriel's horn. Like no. You like that one?
No. Well, I mean, actually, I don't like that one. No, I don't like that one. No, that's not it. And it's not the one where Jack Klugman is a pool player, trying to be the best pool player. No, it's not that one. It's not that one.
Which one?
Even though one of my favorite actors is in that one with Jonathan Winters plays the other pool player.
Right. Which one do you like? One of them hipster ones that no one. Which one?
So,
which one do you like?
It's one that I guarantee is one that you know. It's the one. It's basically almost like a silent film, and it's with. Shut up! And it's.
See, I knew you was gonna go with some bullshit. I knew it.
It's not.
You're like everyone else. I knew it. I knew you weren't going to do Burgess Meredith breaking his glasses.
No,
like I knew you weren't going to do that. I knew you weren't going to what is it? The Invaders of Maple Street, or like I knew you were. Which one? It's a silent movie. Go ahead, Lynn. What is it? Which one?
It's not a silent movie. I'm just saying there's barely any dialogue in it. I think there is maybe one or two words, and it's with Charles Bronson and Elizabeth Montgomery, and they're the last two people on Earth, and they just kind of like discover one another and find a way to relate with one another and reconcile that they are going to be alone on Earth. and I just think it's a very
Uh-huh.
beautiful story.
Yeah, I don't even know which one.
You don't know what? That is a classic one. That
right.
is
No one knows what you're talking about.
That's not true. There are a lot of people know that one. There's a lot of people know that one. I don't know the name of it, the title of that one.
You know what? Philly Twilight Zone people are the worst.
That's not. What do you mean, Philly Twilight Zone? What the hell?
I said snooty Twilight Zone.
That's not
people.
snooty. I liked all the ones you just mentioned. It's not like I don't like them.
I knew you like some hipster episode that nobody ever talks about. Like you don't.
There
like
you go. Aaron Fry knows it. It's called 2. That's what the episode is called 2. It's a great episode.
I didn't say it wasn't great. I said no one is ever going to pick that. Oh, I like 2.
That's not true, Vince. That's not true. Every time there is a Twilight Zone marathon,
what time do they play it?
They play it during. It's not like at the beginning. So no, I know what you're trying to say.
They play it at like 2 a.m.
No, that's not true. No, it's not. No, it's not.
Like they don't have the commercials like they do to Serve Man, where they're like, in 1 hour we'll be playing to Serve Man.
First of all, to be honest, Vince, hipsters don't really know about the original Twilight Zone, so the hipsters only really know the ones that everybody else know, like To Serve Man. So if anything, yours is really the hipster choice.
No, you just said everyone knows about it. Everyone knows To Serve Man. Everyone knows.
No, but
I don't
no.
But
hipsters don't know about the Twilight Zone. Hipsters,
of course they do. Everyone, well, The Serve Man is bigger than the Serve Man is actually bigger than the Twilight Zone.
No, you know what hipsters know? The hipsters know that there is a famous episode called I don't know what it is, but it gets referenced on The Simpsons a lot. Right. That's what hipsters know.
That's what I mean about the episode bigger than the Twilight Zone. Everyone knows To Serve Man is a cookbook.
They don't know the episode. Hipsters don't know the episode. But real Twilight Zone fans know too. Charles Bronson and Elizabeth Montgomery.
Right. You don't sound like a douchebag hipster at all. You know, I actually like the hour episodes of the Twilight Zone better than the half hour because they're more like small movies.
Well, wait a minute.
Was it an hour episode?
No,
it was an hour episode.
No, it wasn't. It's a half-hour episode. However, one of the episodes, which I do believe was an hour episode, but I could be wrong. One of the episodes is actually a very good episode. Again, I don't know the name. The one where the guy has, I think, like the devil is either in the basement or in a cage. You know which one I'm talking about?
I don't, because I don't really mess with the devil like that.
It's 1950s devil, man. It's like Joseph Cotton with with a mustache. It's not the devil.
You know that one with the doll?
Oh no, I don't fuck with that.
And you better be nice to me. And the last line she says, "You better be nice to me."
No.
It depends on what time of the day that one comes on. I don't mess with that one either.
No, I'm not even listening. No, I don't even hear you. I don't fuck with dolls, man. I don't fuck with dolls.
It's good to see you though, Lynn. Looks like this is working.
I don't fuck with dolls, man. I don't fuck with that. I forced myself to watch from the 70s, like a couple of months ago, Magic with Anthony Hopkins.
Why are you watching Magic?
Man, because I had to deal with it. As a kid, it scared me, and I needed to deal with it to reconcile that this movie was not scary, and it's not.
I don't mess with Magic right now. I almost didn't mess with Night Gallery because of the credits.
I don't mess with Night Gallery. No. I know it's not good, but I don't mess with Night Gallery.
Yeah.
That music and the paintings.
And the paintings. It had the paintings.
Nah.
And Rod Serling's hair was a little longer.
Yeah. Nah. Your brother coincides. He's like, no devil stuff and no gargoyles.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
No. I only mess with Disney gargoyles. That's it.
Oh yeah.
That's it. If it ain't named Goliath, I don't mess with him. All
right. So we good? You think we good?
I think we're good. I hope we're good. This has been fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't even know what started all this. I was gone when all this started. So, all right.
Well, remember I said there were gremlins. messing
Yeah.
with us.
Okay. Oh, got you. Got you. Well.
Then my brother, when you were gone, when I said what is this? It's like Terror at 34,000 feet. He thought I was talking about the movie.
With John Lithgow, right? Isn't he?
Right. But I'm actually talking about the episode with, of course,
William
William Shatner. So then I talked about how the famous stories that they redid for the movie, which then got us talking about famous episodes of the Twilight Zone, and no one brought up 2 because we're not hipster Twilight Zone. You said 2.
After the show, I want you to go look at that one.
I've seen it. I don't remember it, but I watched the marathon.
Maybe it means a lot to me because, like, my first crush
was Charlton Heston. Sorry.
Fuck you. Fuck you. My first crush was Elizabeth Montgomery in Bewitched. And then when I saw that episode and she has dark hair in there, and I was like, oh, I like her even more.
I've never seen this episode of Bewitched. You thought she was her evil sister. Because you like the bad girls.
No, I like Samantha. I actually didn't like her when she dressed up as her sister.
Right.
Because it was a wig. I don't do wigs.
Right.
All right.
You ready to talk about Ray? Maybe you reach out, hold her wrist. You hold her wrist. Got to hold her wrist.
They make her way up.
That's right. Up. Ray Charles had it worked out.
He had it worked out, man. There's a little bit of fat shaming in this movie, though.
But yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
It's a little bit of fat shaming. All right, okay, all right. Let's get started.
All right.
Everybody's going on about Twilight Zone movies. We got to move on. All right. Ray, a 2004 American biographical film focusing on the 30 years in the life of rhythm and blues musician, Ray Charles. The independently produced film was co-produced and directed by Taylor Hackford, written by James L. White from a story by White and Hackford, and stars Jamie Foxx in the title role, along with Kerry Washington, Clifton Powell, Harry Lennox, Terrence Howard, Lorenz Tate, Richard Schiff, Regina King, Anjanae Ellis. Whew! Man, oh man, alive. This film, as we mentioned, garnered for Jamie Foxx the Academy Award for Best Actor in 2005 among its many accolades. And it is Vincent's selection for tonight's stop on the Micheaux mission. Vincent, what say you of Ray?
I joked a little bit last week that I wanted to have a really spectacular piece of filmmaking, like a really almost prestige example of filmmaking to clear my palate, if you will, after Mother May I. And this is really what we have come to call blue chip filmmaking. It really, really is. The performances really run the range from extraordinary to surprisingly good. And not surprisingly good because these aren't actors that you don't think are capable of good work, but surprisingly good because these are actors who oftentimes haven't been given the opportunity to do good work. Harry Lennox is a favorite of ours. Harry Lennox is not in this film for that long, but I have to say I was really impressed by the subtlety of how Harry Lennox plays a character who you don't really like that much, but you understand as the announcer Joe Adams, who then ends up being Ray Charles's manager.
Mm-hmm.
And you understand how he gets his position, but at the same time, you understand how there is conflict, if you will, between him and Ray Charles's other manager, Jeff Brown, played by Clifton Powell,
right?
Who puts in a surprisingly good performance. Again, as I said, not because he's not a good actor, but because Clifton Powell has never really gets the opportunity to act.
Act outside the type. He's gotten kind of like
outside his type.
typecast.
Exactly. Bokeem Woodbine does great work as one of my father's favorite musicians, David Fathead Newman.
Really? Oh, cool.
Yeah, the saxophone player and close friend of Ray Charles throughout his life. But in a lot of ways, this film is a showcase for actresses, starting with Sharon Warren, who plays Ray Charles's mother. And I remember when it came out, everyone was talking about Sharon Warren, and unfortunately, she hasn't been as visible,
right,
since Ray as I thought she should have been. And she is spectacular. She is spectacular as Ray Charles' mother. Ingenue Ellis, who we just mentioned before the break, who I frankly forgot was in this.
Mm-hmm.
And she's very, very good. She's very, very good as Marianne Fisher, a singer who performs with Ray Charles. And then you have these two actresses who really kind of form the poles that the narrative orbits around. You have Kerry Washington as his wife, Della B. Robinson. And she is, I think she turns in a performance that is more subtle than you think. There aren't as many fireworks in her performance, but she does very well in the scenes with Jamie Foxx as Della Ray. And you really do get this rising sense of frustration and anger in her role as Ray Charles's wife. And then you have Regina King, who damn near steals the movie.
Yeah.
Damn near steals the movie as sort of the leader of the Rayettes, if you will, Margie Hendricks, who has this very fiery, tumultuous relationship with Ray Charles. Part of the reason it is so fiery and tumultuous is, as I just mentioned, Ray Charles is married. And at the center of these great performances, you have Jamie Foxx as Ray Charles. And this is an extraordinary performance for a lot of different reasons. First, I think it's a challenging role. This very layered, this very complicated musical genius that you have to play. Second, you are playing a figure that by the time this film came out is actually iconic. Like, there are layers upon layers of Ray Charles being an icon. This film only goes to technically 77. Like, there's a coda from 1979, but really it only goes to about 77. By 2004, there are generations of people who know Ray Charles.
Yeah.
And you have to depict this man, again, this legend that generations of people know. Third, because of Ray Charles's blindness, because of Ray Charles's cadence, I think it would be very easy to slip into caricature and sort of mimicry, kind of doing a Ray Charles bit, if you will. And I think Jamie Foxx does an extraordinary job of inhabiting this role and making it a person. You recognize that it's Ray Charles, but it's not Jamie Foxx putting on, if you will.
Right.
And all of these powerhouse performances are sort of moved around by the great direction of Taylor Hackford, who has done good work. I don't know. I run kind of hot and cold with his. I looked at his filmography,
right,
and I run kind of hot and tepid, if you will. Like, I don't really hate anything he made, but he's had a lot of work that I was just like kind of, huh. But he made An Officer and a Gentleman, which is a fantastic film, which is not really saying any much. But I think it's also noteworthy that he made this really great music documentary about Chuck Berry.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and you see it because I think he does a great job capturing this musical energy and these performances. There's a scene in this film where they perform What I Say, and the legend goes that Ray Charles came up with it on the spot, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And it's my favorite scene in the film. Just that energy between the band and the singers and Ray Charles. And at this point of the film, this is a very well seasoned collective of performers.
Right.
And it's this wonderful showcase of their talent that Taylor Hackford captures. So this is a fine film. This is real blue chip filmmaking. This is a great film. If you just want to know that, that's what you want to know. I have to say that part of the luxury, if you will, of our doing this podcast is once I get past that, I'm more interested in the structure and the challenges of the film. And this is a really interestingly structured film to me. It's a musical biopic, which we all know the beats. We all know the beats of the musical biopic. You have the beginning and where the singer comes from. You have the rise to fame.
Right.
There's usually some type of complication.
Mm-hmm. Or
band
fall.
breaks up. There's some drugs. Someone steals some money. They fall. And then there's the great return, if you will. The great
return to glory.
They return to glory, and then it goes off, and there's a freeze frame, and then they have the little black screen with the text that tells you what happened to him.
Right.
What really interests me about this film structurally is that Ray Charles doesn't really have those familiar beats with his career. He definitely struggles with drug addiction, and I think they address that to a certain extent in this film. But there's never a moment, and they actually reference it when Jerry Wexler and they try to basically have an intervention.
Right.
His drug addiction never really affected his career. He didn't miss any dates. He kept making hits. He kept putting out records. Were there complications? Absolutely. But even within the film, there's never really a moment where Ray Charles' career goes off the rails. He's arrested, and then the arrest is thrown out. He goes to rehab, but he just keeps going.
Mm-hmm.
They gloss over the issues with his womanizing to a certain extent. Because Ray Charles had, almost a dozen kids with 3 or 4 different women. In the film, they talk about
it's actually more about 7 women.
7 women. They never really talk about that in this film. He has the one child with Margie that they mention, but they never reference the other children.
Right. He
and his wife Della have tough spots in their marriage. But as far as the constraints of the film, she stays with him. we know biographically they end up getting a divorce. But even in the film, when at the end where Georgia rescinds their lifetime ban on him, she's there. So if you don't know his actual biography, you think they're still married. Georgia, as I just mentioned, bans him because he says, I'm no longer going to play segregated venues. And then Georgia gets mad, and that term, but it's really just a moment in the film. So what you really have is this almost character study within the constraints of this biopic form, if you will.
Right. Okay.
Because again, the rock bottom that he hits is very interior. He's never broke. At one point, they talk about a manager is stealing some money from him, but it seems like that's more of a break of his trust than, oh my goodness, I don't have any money anymore. So that, to circle back to what I started with, you really just have this uninterrupted highlight of these great performances from the beginning to the end. Now, this film is 2 hours and
23 minutes.
23 minutes. And you know we are relentless with what I'm about to say. You go over 2 hours, there are not many films that we at the Micheaux Mission think justify being over 2 hours.
Right.
And I think that there is a 2-hour cut of this film that is just fine. This is a film that I suspect if it were up to me, I would have put out the 2-hour cut. And then at some point in the future, a DVD, you have the special extended version and
director's cut,
the director's cut, if you will. And much like, my beloved Blade Runner or Lord of the Rings or, some like Anchorman, if you will. Like when I watched it, I would watch the extended version.
Right.
So that's the only version I would ever watch. Can you argue that this film could have been cut down to 2 hours? Absolutely. I don't know how much of what would have been cut I would refer to as fat, though. Because again, I think from scene to scene to scene, you have these wonderful performances. Everyone I just named, I haven't even mentioned Wendell Pierce is in here for a minute.
Yeah.
Bird is in here for a minute. Terrence Howard is in here for a minute. This film is really just chock full of these performances, and ultimately, it is a film that I think once again transcends the form, and is just a wonderful showcase.
All right, I'm going to tell you what I think about this film in one moment because I got to go get my notes.
Okay. He left his notes in the other room, so we are still making it do what it do. I wonder where he left his notes. Where could his notes be? Are his notes outside? Did Lynn watch the film and then go outside and write on his own, on a pad, on his stoop?
I'm back. Sorry. It's a very unprofessional show, but the podcast will be great. It'll be edited superb, but the stream.
We are all watching. Boy, you got to come to the actual live show because you really do get to see the sausage.
You do. You really do. I agree with a lot of what you said about this movie. There's a lot of captivating performances in this film. Of course, Jamie Foxx and Regina King are the standouts in this in this film. You had made mention that this may be Regina King's, possibly her best performance. Um, I don't know. I've got to see everything that Regina King has done, but this certainly is a contender because she kills it. I will say that this is probably the best performance I've seen of Kerry Washington. I'll say that right off the bat. So this film is a lot of great performances. I also want to shout out. You talked about the Jerry Wexler and the other manager for Ray Charles when he started with Atlantic Records, Ahmad Ertegun, played by
Curtis Armstrong.
Curtis Armstrong, and Jerry Wexler, played by Richard Schiff of the West Wing fame. I thought they gave great performances in this as well. Also, speaking of them, I thought that this was interesting for a film that is talking about a music artist who comes to fame in the 50s and 60s through the South. I thought it was very interesting that in this film, there is no demonizing of white people at all in this film. I mean, there's definitely references to, to the Jim Crowness of the South, but the guys at Atlantic, those two, Ahmed and Jerry Wexler, they're shown as well-meaning individuals for their taking on of Ray as a talent, as an artist for at their label. Even early on in the beginning, when Ray Charles goes and gets himself a job with a country band right at the top, while he's met with a little bit of resistance, there's a quick cut to where Ray talks about how he has to be paid in singles, and there's a quick cut flashback to why he has to be paid in singles when some white guy tries to get over on him, and there's another white guy, another bandmate of Ray Charles, who basically is standing up for him. It's like, yo, you want to count that right? I thought that was an interesting turn. I thought that was kind of interesting for that to be pretty much like I seeing that throughout this film. It just like it thought it was noteworthy to me. We shouted out a lot of the actors. I also want to shout out another one, Denise Dowles, who plays Marlene, who is the first club owner, who basically takes on, Terrence Howard and Ray Charles and one other guy, the Mixon trio, but takes Ray as her personal love toy. And there's one moment where Ray Charles is in the other room, apparently exhausted, and Darlene looks from the other room at Ray and says, "Ray, now come on back, Ray." And she says, I quote, "Mama's got some more blackberry cobbler for you." Man, that may be one of the sexiest lines I've ever heard. I was like, yo, I am with this. I'm so with this. So I want to give her some props. I also want to give some props to just the specificity of the setting of the time, because this is a period piece. It's mostly set in the 50s and the 60s, a little bit of the 70s, but it cuts back to Ray Charles as a child, and you see Ray Charles growing up in Georgia with his mother, Aretha, played, like you said, by Sharon Warren. And I liked that there's a little bit of a wash on the film when we cut back, so that those scenes are you decidedly, you can tell that they are in flashback. But I thought that they were beautifully shot. I felt that while you definitely are in just this rural section of Georgia, you still feel the time period in which they are in. I also felt that once he does lose his brother, I thought it was a nice little touch that at his brother's funeral, which is set in this area, it is very low key. It is in tune with the station of everyone there, down to the pine box casket, as well as just wildflowers that adorn the casket, as opposed to some great casket spray. I thought that, I mean, that really just stood out to me as like a very nice and specific touch of, playing right in point. And then, speaking of Sharon Warren and her performance at that scene, and through, never mind throughout the film, is just great. And how she resonates through Ray Charles's life as his mother throughout the film, I thought was just really, really well done. Ray always dealing with the demons of the drugs, but then they're also having, the reason for his dependency on this drugs was because, like he said, I go out here and I'm always in the dark. I'm always alone to a sort. And he also is reconciling that one of the last things he saw was the death of his brother, who drowned in a scalding hot tub, and that's why he's always has these images of water all over the place. I thought that was just very, very well done. There's just a lot to like in this film. I do think that the film in the beginning, it crackles, it pops. There's a lot of energy. There is a lot of, very decorative cuts where like an album comes swooping in, and now you're in the center of the album, and that dissolves into another scene, and there's scenes that dissolve from a look in Ray's eye, and that energy I think does get lost a little bit towards the middle of the film, as we stay in one time period more or less in the 60s. I think it kind of like slows down a little bit to present more of the story. And while that was noticeable to me, the performances were so locked in. I was like, all right, well, okay, I'm going to just sit here and eat up these performances. So I'm with that. I'm cool. I thought that I thought that you talked about that scene with Regina King. I want to shout out this scene with Marianne Ajane Ellis, where she sings her big song, which is basically her singing her solo, but also exiting the film. And I thought that was fantastic. I thought that was just a fantastic scene, well edited, well cut. I love that the last thing you hear is basically, the announcer saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, Marianne." I was like, oh, and she just leaves and dips off into the cab
through his windshield.
Yeah, I just thought that was so cool. That was just like a really dope scene, man. I really loved it. There is a lot to like about this film. Could you nitpick on it? Yes. Like any biopic, there is a, sausaging of some stories. We talked about Ray Charles was a huge womanizer, right? I mean, let's put it out there. As big of the demons as drugs, or heroin was in his life, his womanizing was probably as equally a demon. We said he had 12 children with 7 different women. That definitely gets sausage pretty much into the roles of Marianne and Margie to represent, the Margie, makes the joke to Ray about like, oh, so we're going to be the Raylettes. So does that mean that we got to let Ray?
Yeah.
That's a joke that was common amongst the Raylettes throughout the lifetime of the Raylettes.
Oh, yeah.
So, that's their way of getting that in there. Did Ray Charles have a problem with a demon with drugs that he had to get off of? Sure, he did. And he did go to rehab for it. But he also showed that he was a little bit of a weed head too. He never gave that up, and now you
That's
might
from
say
the earth.
Right. Well, you might say it's from the earth. You might also say he was blind, and hey, that's what they say.
Hey.
So hey, he knew what we only just learned. Exactly. We just catching up with Ray.
Right.
So he never gave that up. You talked about Della, Kerry Washington's character, being there at the end. In real life, she wasn't there at the end. In real life, they had divorced by then. In real life, when you learn about it, Ray Charles wasn't banned from Georgia, and therefore there actually never was a proclamation to right or wrong. That was all pretty much just made up for the movie. Mm-hmm. And I think that was just a way of kind of trying to. I think that maybe just the one little, to me, massage too far in the legend of Ray Charles, of mm-hmm. making him a little bit more, more responsive to the civil rights movement than he may have actually been at the time.
Right. Right.
And I could argue, it's a little icky, but on its substance, they get certain things right. Did he turn down an invitation to perform at a segregated venue? Yes, he did. Was it because of some protest that was happening in front of it? No, it wasn't. Did he no longer perform at segregated venues? Nah, he still went back there a few times. So, you could nitpick about that, but I'm not going to nitpick too hard because the movie is still cool. The movie is still dope. There is still Jamie Foxx, who you forget is Jamie Foxx. That is the best type of performance. Like you said, it's not mimicry. It is the best type of performance. Just like Denzel Washington makes you totally forget that he does not look or sound anything like Malcolm X, but he is Malcolm X in X. Jamie Foxx makes you, well, he kind of looks like Ray Charles, but you totally think you're looking at young Ray Charles. You think you're looking at a documentary of Ray Charles. So much so that when he sings, I didn't really even realize it until this viewing of it. I knew that Ray Charles actually sings in certain spots, but I didn't know that Ray Charles actually sings almost every single song in here. I thought, Jamie was at least singing on a couple of them. No, he's not. It's all just Ray. And that's because, and it gets over because he does sound like Ray. He does have that affect to him and everything like that. So I champion at this movie a lot. Like you said, could it be trimmed down? Yeah. Hard pressed to say where to cut down on it. Maybe you don't need to have Marianne. Maybe you could have just jumped straight to Margie, but you're trying to be true to a little bit of the history of the thing. So I'm not going to knock that. Harry Lennox comes in, man. Well, first of all, this movie ain't kind of light-skinned brothers, because from Terrence Howard to Harry Lennox, the light-skinned brothers, they always trying to get over on you. Even though,
how's Harry Lennox trying to get over? But
I was just about to say, you don't know whether Harry Lennox is trying to get over on him. He seems to be, just where Ray Charles has gotten to this point. Because like Ray Charles points out to his buddy Jeff, played by Clifton Powell, two things. One, it was, the breaking of the trust. You find that Clifton Powell maybe was stealing from Ray. Clifton Powell says he wasn't. They say that there's paperwork that shows differently. Who knows? I want to believe Clifton Powell because Clifton Powell has been so ride or die throughout this entire film. And you've not shown him, like, usually if somebody's getting over on someone, the movie gives you some type of hint into it, even if it's just a quick cut of a look. There's none of that in this film, right? So I want to believe Clifton Powell. However, Ray Charles also recognizes that just as my career has risen and my station has risen and I've got to handle my business a little bit differently, well, then so too should the board as I'm calling my manager, right?
Yeah.
Like the only reason why Harry Lennox is able to come in there and get in between Ray and Jeff is because Jeff ain't handling this business like that. He basically took that position as road manager and just rode with that, even though he was easily Ray Charles' closest confidant and could have been that much more. He could have, risen his stature and his place in society, period, if he had taken that opportunity.
Well, see, again, that is what fascinates me about this narrative. Because you see these stories, and at the juncture where you leave your crew, like this is my squad that I came up with.
Right.
And now I'm going to take it to the next level. And this is the moment where dude shows up, Billy D. Williams shows up and says, fame means nothing if you have nobody to share it with. Right. And that's the part of the movie where the protagonist loses their way and then has to kind of circle back around, if you will. The thing about Ray Charles, and it's one part, as you said, they massage some of the story, some of the actual story of Ray Charles. But then it's Ray Charles himself. You had this wonderful fusion of talent, just this pure talent, where I want to do something different when I leave Atlantic. And then you bring in the choirs and the orchestra, and you talk about him doing country western, which he had a whole kind of sphere in his career with country western music. But then this dude is talking about owning his masters in 1960.
Yeah.
So that his business was always tight. So that there's never a natural juncture in the narrative where Ray kind of basically has a comeuppance. Oh, I've made this, this terrible music for 5 years that nobody buys. Or I went out and got this other manager and he stole all my money. Like Ray Charles's career is like a career, like he has his career. And then by the time you get to the 70s, and now you think about when you and I were little boys, and you think about Ray Charles. And, he's singing It's Not Easy Being Green on the Muppet Show, and he's showing up at places. Like Ray Charles has this very successful career, and then he transitions into a legend.
Right, into legendary status. Right,
and then he's a legend and an icon for the last 30 years of his life. Right. Like by the time you get to 1980, he don't have to make no more hits. Right. He's just a legend.
And that's why, as much as I do cape for this film and I enjoy the movie, that's why there is a part of this film that is a little troubling to me, because like you say, if there is not really the career setback, and you could argue whether or not how hard of a setback he had to go through when he was basically weaning himself off of drugs, right? I think they massaged that a little bit. Who knows? There could have been a moment where that could have been got a little bit more dicey, but they don't really show it, right?
No. I mean, if you actually look at his discography
Well,
and the
true.
sales, like Ray
He kept
Charles,
moving.
yeah.
So and what I was going to say, and even if it may have gotten dicey, it don't look like it was dicey, like he had any type of foreclosure notices. So he was still pretty good. So that's why there's a part of me that feels that there were two tracks that this movie could have leaned on in light of that, showcase the career, which they do, show the demons and the reasons for the demons, which they do in his childhood and in the death of his brother, and how he was blind and his reconciling and trying to deal with that. But there's also why I think that there is a bit of a missed opportunity of not playing out maybe a little bit more demonstratively his womanizing, only because I think that is the other, for lack of a better word, comeuppance of Ray Charles's life.
I think the reason that isn't a part of the story that would have worked as organically, because it didn't affect his career.
I don't know.
No. That's that's not a debatable point. Like, it didn't affect his career. Like, Ray Charles, again, was legend. He had a very, very prosperous career. He made very good decisions financially.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was an icon and a legend.
Okay, so maybe it doesn't affect his career, but then how does it affect him? How does it affect him at home? How does it affect the aspect of Ray Charles that we don't know? Because yes, you can look up the record sales and see that they were still going. The idea of this movie is to present aspects of him that we don't know. Now, it presents some, but
now let's be clear. Now you're kind of delving into the politics of the biopic.
Well, yeah, I am.
This was an officially sanctioned biographical film by Ray Charles and Company. We've talked about Jamie Foxx and his extraordinary performance, but part of the reason that Jamie Foxx was so good at this is because he could study Ray Charles. Like, Ray Charles actually opened up his home and his world for Jamie Foxx to study. Like, this is not an unauthorized biopic, which maybe speaks to what you're talking about. Like that for lack of a more politic word, the seamy side, if you will,
right,
of Ray Charles. Because I will go out on a limb and say many people did not know about that aspect of Ray Charles's life.
No, I will. Well, certainly. Just like we're seeing in the chat, a lot of people are talking, especially Tamisha Kirkland, who's new to listening to this, watching us on the stream. Hello, Tamisha. Says that she was introduced to his music on The Cosby Show. So, So a lot of people were introduced to him later in life on The Cosby Show, when he showed up on Sesame Street, in the Muppet movie, all of that. I understand that.
There is, when you talk about Ray Charles, last year there was this wonderful article in Esquire, and I meant to, I always go to a different browser when we do this. I had it open on my other browser because I actually want to get this dude's name. Give me 1 second. There was an article in Esquire last July. It was an oral history of the making of We Are the World.
Okay.
By Ryan DiAgostino. It was an oral history of We Are the World, which, sidebar, fascinating article. Like, look up this article. It was in Esquire last July, Oral History of We Are the World, because, you know, it had never happened before. And it's this wonderful article about how they sort of managed all of these musicians.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, you know, it's like Billy Joel is there, Elton John is there, Michael Jackson is there, Bruce Springsteen is there, Diana Ross is there. Like, this is a room filled with legitimate, iconic artists, and how they got together. So, you know, it talks about how, because this is the 80s, so, you know, there's no Instagram, there's no social media. A lot of these folks are kind of meeting each other for the first time in person. They talk about how they deal with the egos. They talk about, like, there's this wonderful detail about how they separated everybody's entourage from the musicians. And they got them in this room, and everyone's all talking. And again, there's a room filled with legends and musical stars. And then
Dionne Warwick.
Look.
I'm sorry, I had to get that in. I'm sorry.
An icon and a legend.
If you say so, go ahead.
And then Ray Charles walks in the room. And they say, this room filled with stars, a hush falls over the crowd. Because it's Ray Charles.
Yeah, yeah.
And among them, Ray Charles is the legend. Follow up to this. This is actually funny to me. So when they're making it, they're making We Are the World, and they're making a song, and people have ideas that they want to add.
Of course.
Song. Like, you know, Elton John has ideas, and Billy Joel has ideas. And then my favorite part, Stevie Wonder wanted to sing some of it in Swahili, which is hilarious to me.
That sounds like Stevie.
But how do you tell these people we're not going to do that? And these are people who are known for having good ideas. Right. So apparently after a few minutes of this, Ray Charles pipes up and says, all right, Q, talking to Quincy Jones. He said, all right, that's about enough of this. Let's get to work.
That's right.
And this whole room, like school children, quiets down. Because it's Ray Charles. And I do think that there is a bit of that as well. Like this film is almost codifying the legend, if you will.
I hear you.
As it says, you know, he dies in 2004, the year it comes out. Like, this is this wonderful capstone to this legend. But it does, to go back what I said earlier, it is almost a conflict-free narrative as far as this narrative is concerned. A, because of his career. B, because, as we said, there's a lot of it that they smooth over.
Right. And I just think, there is a part of me that like, okay, the way that they smooth it over is not to say that it didn't happen. They just, like I say, sausage everything in. Like, so they sausage whatever these different women are into the main women, who were Marianne and Margie. And let's face it, they probably are the main women, along as far as the other women. And then there is Della, his wife, of 22 years. So, so not an insignificant amount of time.
No.
So, I think, like, that frustration, even though I do agree that this is Kerry Washington's, if not her best performance, one of her best performances. I think that frustration that you say that she subtly shows throughout the film, I think that there could have been more moments of it. There could have been, I think there could have been a little bit. I think that it would have been nice to see more moments of her. You see a lot of her against Ray, and even then she's responding to Ray or engaging Ray in something, as opposed to seeing her. I would have actually wanted to see a scene with her and Jeff as the only other real confidant in his life. You know what I mean? To see that dynamic, because you see Jeff also kind of feeling some type of way about how Ray is living his life as well. So I would have liked to have seen that. I just think that that is a opportunity that even with Ray Charles signing off on this film, I would have liked to see this film take. It doesn't, and it doesn't, you know, it doesn't negatively impact the film. It's just a missed opportunity. I feel to make it truly a masterpiece of a film as opposed to a collection of great performances, which I
Right.
think overall what this film does. This is not Straight Out of Compton, which I hate it because to me, Straight Out of Compton might as well just be Lord of the Rings because that ain't nothing but fiction. But this, I think, is great performances. Like you said, I like the way you put it, the codifying of a legend, of a legitimate legend in Ray Charles. And it was fun to return to the film. I hadn't seen it in quite a while, so it was an enjoyable watch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I, I actually like your argument that if you deepened it, you would have gotten more of Kerry Washington.
Yeah.
Because I do love her in this. And there are these wonderful moments that, as you say, are sort of the iceberg peeking out.
Mm-hmm.
And you know there's so much underneath it. Like what my favorite moment of hers in the film when Ray Charles receives the news that Margie has OD'd, played by Regina King, and he kind of collapses and he says to Della, "I'd never introduced her to it. Like she knew I was on heroin, obviously, but I never let her do it around me." And Kerry Washington says to him, direct quote, "I'm sure you set a fine example."
Yeah.
And there is ice in her voice when she says it. And you can tell, much like you're saying, this is not just about this moment.
Right.
This is about a lot that the film hasn't spoken about.
And that scene is actually a great opportunity because what the scene does is that you see Ray walk out the room and you see him collapse. But before you see him walk out the room and collapse, Kerry Washington walks back out into the deck because they're in the midst of having a party. Right. And that is a perfect opportunity to swing that camera around to see Kerry Washington. If you only just see, because you could have done both. You could have had in one frame Kerry Washington coming out of onto the deck, having to collect herself after one hearing this news and dropping knowledge on Ray, like, oh yeah, I already know about the kid. He's such and such year old. I'll send him some money or whatever. See her collect herself because this is how she's had to be in his life, and see off in the background him collapsing, and that would have been a perfect illustration of their dynamic in that moment. And giving you a little bit more of Kerry Washington, giving her a little bit more agency in this film. I just think those are moments that could have been done to just really like make this movie pop, make the story pop.
You know what I feel like we are headed towards, and it's on my mind because we are going against the wishes of the Franklin family, and we're actually watching the Aretha Franklin documentary on Net Geo with Cynthia Erivo.
Love me some Cynthia Erivo.
Which is fantastic. And she's fantastic in this documentary, by the way. Susie Laurie Parks has written this, and it's fantastic.
Is it a documentary? I know. It's a film.
It's a series.
Okay, right. Okay, yeah. It's a docu-series.
It's a docu-series, and Ray Charles, I think, could have really benefited from that expansion. So I think it's 8 or 9 episodes. They're an hour each, but it's Aretha Franklin.
Right.
So her career actually justifies that. We just said Ray Charles, this only covers 20 years of his life.
Right.
Ray Charles had a whole existence as an icon. Like just as we've been talking tonight, Ray Charles, the Real the World story I'm talking about. Ray Charles on the Muppet Show. Ray Charles as his music on the Cosby Show. Like he really is. Like who else has had a public life like that?
Very few.
Very few. So you it's almost like what we're saying is we want more of this.
Deborah Battle says that she would love a little more of Quincy and Ray. Quincy Jones, played by Lorenz Tate in this film.
Yeah.
That would have been cool.
Yeah.
But honestly, as much as it would have been nice to see a little bit more Quincy and Ray, I'm just waiting for the Quincy Jones story. Because Quincy Jones, he got all the tapes.
Yeah.
All the tapes. And I have a funny feeling if Quincy Jones is able to put out his film now while he's still alive, Quincy Jones ain't massaging anything. Like Quincy Jones might do a Game of Thrones version of the Quincy Jones story.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, but I think that's a perfect example. Ray Charles and Quincy Jones's relationship is referenced, but never really.
No, it's not truly explored.
So again,
even though to be fair, it makes sense because Quincy Jones is so much younger than Ray Charles. He's younger.
Yeah, but they had a relationship and a friendship.
They did.
As Quincy Jones kind of ascended. So
true. Would you recommend that people watch Ray?
Oh, absolutely. You absolutely should watch Ray. I'm not going to say off the top of my head that this is my favorite musical biopic, but it is very much up there.
Okay.
It is very much up there, and just in real time, it's difficult for me to think of one that I like more right now.
Yeah, I would recommend that people see this movie as well. I definitely would. I would recommend people if you haven't watched Ray, it's worth watching again. It's a very stylish film that does not that ages gracefully. We've watched some films that don't age that well. This film ages very gracefully, and we touched on it. There's a lot of great performances in here. Man, how many times are we going to show some love for Bokeem Woodbine? Man, that man just does not disappoint.
Bokeem Woodbine is the best. Like, he really is this great actor. You get him in the pocket.
True. Yeah, man. Him and the late great Charles Byrd.
Yeah, Thomas Jefferson Byrd.
Thomas Jefferson Byrd. Sorry.
Right. And again, this film is so, like, I looked, it was 40 minutes before Ray Charles left that band. So you had almost a half hour in that part of his life.
Right. Real quick, action figure expert, thanks for tuning in, says that he likes Straight Outta Compton a bit better than Ray.
Uh-oh.
No, there you go. Well,
Lynn might want to have a talk with you after the show.
Nope. I got nothing to say. It's your choice. Hey, some people prefer fiction. That's all. So it's all good. All right. Before we tell you what we're going to be watching next week as part of African American Music Appreciation Month, ladies and gentlemen, I want to invite you to send all of your thoughts and concerns. Email us at the Micheaux Mission at gmail.com. That's MICHEAUXMISSION at gmail.com. And like and follow the Micheaux Mission on all the social media, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Subscribe to the Micheaux Mission on YouTube at Micheaux Mission. 2 Men, 1 podcast, every black film ever made. Go to MicheauxMission.com, hit swag, and check out all the cool products we have coming your way by way of our good friends at T Public. And the Micheaux Mission is a proud member of The Podglomerate, curated podcast for your earbuds. Go to thepodglomerate.com. they make podcasts work. All right. Next week, Vincent, I think it's my turn, isn't it?
It is indeed your turn, sir.
It is my turn to pick a film for next week, ladies and gentlemen, and I've picked a film that I have always wanted to see, never saw it, never took the opportunity to see this film, but I'm taking the opportunity now, and I am looking forward to it. It is from the year 2006, I believe, isn't it? Right?
It is?
Yeah,
I believe so.
2006, and it stars Andre 3000, Big Boy. You know them better as Outkast. It's got hip hop, it's got funk, it's got soul, and it's got a juke joint, and they call it Idlewild.
It's got Keith David.
Oh, cool. There you go. And it's got Paula J. Parker as well in this film as well.
Terrence Howard again. That's 2 Terrence Howards in a row.
Oh, wow.
With the third one, I think we get free tacos.
We'll see if we can't make that happen. Well, we got to get the second one in first, and that'll be Idlewild next week here on the Micheaux Mission, streaming live on StreamYard into your Facebook and YouTube near you. All right? All right, ladies and gentlemen. Until then, he's Vincent. I'm Len. And in parting, we say,
we'll see you when it's time to meet again.
Peace.